4 people boarded a private jet for what was supposed to be the beginning of a carefully planned journey to Paris, a journey designed around comfort, precision, and experience. Instead, that short stop in Bangor became the final chapter of a story no one expected. What makes this moment especially striking isn't just the incident itself, but who was on board, why they were traveling, and how many unanswered questions remain even now. This isn't a story about speculation or blame. It's about context, verified facts, and understanding how a single evening connected a luxury travel company, a private aircraft, and an investigation that is still unfolding. And one detail, revealed only after the crash, quietly changed how many people understood what happened next. The aircraft involved was a Bombardier Challenger 600, a private jet commonly used for long-distance international travel. According to publicly available information, the flight was scheduled to travel from the United States to Paris, with Bangor International Airport serving as a refueling stop. Stops like this are routine. Bangor has long been used by private and commercial flights crossing the Atlantic, especially for refueling and crew considerations. Nothing about the plan itself appeared unusual. On Sunday evening, around 7:45 p.m., the jet began its takeoff sequence from Bangor International Airport. What happened in the moments that followed would later be described by officials in careful, factual terms. The aircraft overturned and a fire broke out shortly after takeoff. Emergency crews responded, and the airport was secured. From that point forward, the situation shifted from an aviation operation to an active investigation. But at the time, very little was known publicly about the people on board, or why this particular flight mattered far beyond Bangor. Because this wasn't just a private jet carrying anonymous passengers. It was transporting a team whose work revolved around designing experiences meant to feel seamless, curated, and unforgettable for some of the world's most exclusive travelers. As reporting continued, officials confirmed that 4 passengers had lost their lives in the incident, along with the pilot. The passengers were all connected to the same company, a luxury travel and experiences brand known as Beyond. Beyond was co-founded by Kurt and Tara Arnold, built around the idea of combining high-end destinations with personalized service, private estates, and carefully curated moments. According to the company's public materials, the goal was not simply travel, but something they described as an experience beyond imagination. Tara Arnold, who served as the company's CEO, was among those on board. Also traveling were key members of the Beyond team, individuals whose roles were central to how the company delivered its experiences: a private chef, a sommelier, and hospitality professional, a luxury event, designer, and experience curator. Each role represented a different layer of what Beyond offered its clients: food, atmosphere, service, and design, all coming together to create a single, cohesive experience. This was not a random group of passengers. It was a working team traveling together for a purpose connected to their business. And then there's the part of the story that adds another layer of complexity: the aircraft itself. Because ownership of the jet would soon raise questions, not about responsibility, but about how closely connected everything truly was. Public records indicate that the Bombardier Challenger 600 was owned by an LLC known as KTKJ Challenger. One of the named directors of that company is Kurt Arnold, co-founder of Beyond and husband of Tara Arnold. Kurt Arnold was not on the plane. He is also known publicly as a founder of a Texas-based personal injury law firm, Arnold & Itkin. Following the crash, media outlets reached out to the firm for comment. As of the latest reporting at that time, no public statement had been issued. It's important to be precise here. Ownership of an aircraft does not automatically imply involvement in its operation, maintenance decisions, or the events of a specific flight. These distinctions are exactly why formal investigations exist, and that investigation was already underway. Because while headlines focused on who was lost, officials on the ground were dealing with another difficult reality. One that delayed answers and extended uncertainty. In the hours and days following the crash, officials at Bangor International Airport confirmed that recovery efforts were ongoing. According to airport leadership, portions of the aircraft wreckage remained covered in firefighting foam, which had frozen due to weather conditions. This significantly complicated access to the site. As of Wednesday afternoon, officials stated that remains of the victims were still within the wreckage. That point, responsibility for recovery and identification was being coordinated between the medical examiner's office and the National Transportation Safety Board, the NTSB. The NTSB's role is not to assign blame, but to determine contributing factors and prevent future incidents. Their investigations often take months, sometimes longer, and rely on methodical analysis rather than immediate conclusions, which means that, for now, many of the most important questions remain unanswered. Alongside the 4 passengers, the pilot of the aircraft, Jacob Hosmer, was also confirmed to have lost his life in the incident. Publicly available information identifies him as the pilot operating the flight that evening. Authorities also confirmed the presence of a second crew member on board. As of the latest official updates, that individual's identity had not yet been publicly released. In aviation investigations, this is not unusual. Identification depends on recovery conditions, verification procedures, and coordination between multiple agencies. Officials typically avoid releasing partial or uncertain information, even when public interest is high. What matters here is that the aircraft was staffed, operating under standard procedures, and conducting what appeared to be a routine international departure following refueling. Which leads to an important point that often gets overlooked in early coverage. Because most aviation incidents don't begin with a dramatic failure. They begin during moments that look completely normal. Statistically, takeoff and landing are the most complex phases of flight. They involve precise timing, weight calculations, environmental conditions, and mechanical performance, all happening within a short window. According to aviation experts, when something goes wrong during takeoff, pilots have very limited time to react. This is why investigations focus heavily on data rather than assumptions. At this stage, officials have not publicly identified a specific cause. There has been no confirmed statement regarding mechanical issues, human factors, environmental conditions, or operational decisions. And that absence of conclusions is intentional. The NTSB's process prioritizes accuracy over speed. Investigators collect physical evidence, review maintenance records, examine flight data if available, and reconstruct timelines using verified information only. Until that process is complete, any explanation would be premature. But while investigators work methodically, the public conversation often moves faster, and not always in the right direction. When private aviation incidents occur, they tend to attract heightened attention. The aircraft is smaller, the passengers are fewer, and often the people involved are professionals or business leaders. This can create a vacuum where speculation fills the space before facts are established. In this case, several details were quickly confirmed. The aircraft was privately owned. The flight plan included a refueling stop in Bangor. The passengers were all connected to the same luxury travel company. The incident occurred during takeoff. What has not been confirmed publicly includes the exact sequence of events inside the cockpit, any definitive mechanical findings, whether environmental conditions played a role, any determination of responsibility. Understanding this distinction is critical, not just for accuracy, but for fairness. And beyond the investigation itself, this event quietly highlights something larger: the human structure behind luxury travel that most clients never see. Luxury travel brands often present a seamless image: private estates, curated meals, personalized service, and flawless execution. Behind that experience is a coordinated team: designers, chefs, hospitality experts, and logistics professionals, many of whom travel extensively to prepare, test, and refine those experiences before clients ever arrive. The passengers on this flight weren't just employees listed on a website. They were specialists responsible for shaping how a brand delivered its promise. Their presence together on this flight suggests preparation, planning, and hands-on involvement, the kind that happens long before a guest steps into a villa or sits down to a carefully paired dinner. This context doesn't explain the incident, but it does explain why its impact extended far beyond aviation news. Because as recovery efforts continued, another layer of complexity emerged: time. Officials emphasized that recovery conditions at the site were challenging. Frozen firefighting foam, structural instability, and safety considerations all slowed access. These delays are not procedural failures, they are safety decisions. Every step, from recovery to identification to investigation, follows strict protocols designed to protect both personnel and evidence. For families, colleagues, and communities connected to those on board, this waiting period can be especially difficult. But it is also the only path toward reliable conclusions, and those conclusions, when they come, will likely focus less on headlines and more on prevention. Because the final meaning of this incident won't be found in how it happened, but in what changes, if anything, come after. Private aviation often carries a perception of exclusivity and control. Flights are customized, schedules are flexible. Aircraft are smaller, and passengers are usually known to one another. But from a safety perspective, private flights operate within the same physical realities as any other aircraft. They rely on certified equipment, trained crews, regulatory oversight, and environmental conditions that cannot be negotiated or customized. Incidents involving private jets can feel more personal precisely because of their scale. Fewer passengers mean individual stories become clearer. Names, roles, and relationships are easier to identify. That clarity can increase emotional impact, but it can also distort understanding if context is missing. Because when attention narrows to individuals, it's easy to miss the system surrounding them. One of the most common questions after any aviation incident is simple: what went wrong? The reason investigators don't answer that question immediately is not secrecy, it's structure. Modern aviation safety is built on layered analysis: aircraft performance data, maintenance and inspection records, crew training and certification, operational planning, environmental conditions, airport infrastructure and procedures. Each layer is examined independently before conclusions are connected. Removing or skipping a step risks creating explanations that feel satisfying but are incomplete. In this case, the NTSB has been clear. The investigation is active, coordinated, and ongoing, which means that patience is not a delay, it's part of the process. And while that process unfolds quietly, the ripple effects are already visible in more subtle ways. For companies built around people, especially small, specialized teams, the loss of key members can reshape operations overnight. Luxury travel brands in particular rely on trust, continuity, and personal relationships. Clients don't just buy destinations, they buy confidence in the people creating the experience. When those people are suddenly gone, the impact, it is not only operational, but emotional. Colleagues must process loss while maintaining responsibility. Partners must reevaluate plans, and clients are reminded that even the most carefully designed experiences are supported by human effort. This is rarely visible from the outside, but it's central to understanding why this incident resonated far beyond aviation circles. Which brings us to the most important shift in perspective: moving from event to meaning. Not every story needs a dramatic ending to be complete. Sometimes the value lies in understanding how complex systems intersect with human lives, and why responsible reporting avoids turning real people into symbols or statistics. This incident connects multiple worlds: aviation safety, business leadership, luxury travel, regulatory investigation, human loss. None of these exist in isolation, and no single explanation will capture the full picture. What can be done is to follow verified information, respect uncertainty, and allow conclusions to form based on evidence rather than urgency. Because before this story ends, there is one final responsibility: acknowledgement. As investigations continue, the focus will remain on facts, not assumptions, not speculation, and not narratives shaped by urgency. Aviation safety improves not through instant answers, but through careful analysis, documentation, and transparency. Each investigation contributes to systems designed to reduce risk, protect future passengers, and improve operational standards across the industry. This process can feel slow, but its purpose is long-term understanding, not short-term certainty. And while technical findings will eventually be published, they will never fully capture the human dimension behind this incident. Behind every flight plan are people, professionals, colleagues, and families whose lives extend far beyond a single journey. The passengers on this flight were not defined by the incident, but by the work they did and the experiences they helped create. Their roles required precision, creativity, and collaboration, qualities that often remain invisible unless something goes wrong. Recognizing that complexity allows this story to be remembered not for shock, but for perspective. Near the end of this video, it's important to acknowledge the individuals who lost their lives based on publicly confirmed information. Those on board included Tara Arnold, CEO and co-founder of Beyond; Nick Mastroscusa, a private chef and member of the Beyond team; Shelby Kuyawa, a sommelier and hospitality professional; and Shauna Collins, a luxury event designer and experience curator. The pilot, Jacob Hosmer, was also among those who lost their lives while operating the flight. Each name represents a person, a career, and a network of people affected by their loss. The full findings of the investigation will take time. When they are released, they will add clarity, not just about this incident, but about how similar risks can be reduced in the future. Understanding comes from context, not conclusions drawn too early. If you want to continue exploring how aviation investigations work, how private flights are regulated, or how safety findings translate into real-world changes, the next video takes a closer look at that process, step by step, not to sensationalize, but to understand. For viewers interested in informed, responsible breakdowns of complex events, consider following the channel. New videos build on verified information, public records, and careful analysis, always with context first.